It is a story of a man who got immortality from his father. In this story, he is the oldest person alive. Elijah is in a wheelchair in front of the graves of his past loved ones. He tells a story from years back, during the days of his father. In the United Kingdom, we see Johnson, a young man who excelled academically, speaks 16 languages, and becomes the first African clergyman in the Church of England. He has a little bit of superpowers that allow him to stay in water for 58 minutes, and counting and come out when he feels bored. He is a wealthy man. He returns home with his wife Bridget to Nigeria with their daughter. He gets along with the people of the town and fixes up the church. 8 years later, the church has flourished. Princess Alexander invited him to pray for her on the evening of the independence, which he did. Johnson is with his family having fun. Then, a local thug named Baby Fire, used by the colonial powers to carry out nuisance in the community, is with his gang. The gang arrives at where the fun is taking place and opens fire on the civilians, which results in chaos. Baby Fire kills a man, which Johnson is an eyewitness. When the gang is done, they leave. Johnson agrees to testify as an eyewitness in court for seeing Baby Fire kill someone. At home, Bridget is not happy with his husband's decision, because Baby Fire will come for him. At the court, Johnson testifies as an eyewitness, but corruption from the leaders grants Baby Fire bail. Johnson realizes he is in trouble and sends his family to Lagos. Baby Fire ambushes the car, and Baby Fire's boys kidnap Johnson in church, bring the car in front of him, and set it on fire with his wife and daughter inside. He lay there for 9 days, mourning his loss. He gets up, returns home, gets his gun, and heads to kill Baby Fire. He sneaks into his bedroom at night while he is sleeping and shoots him dead. After that, he tries to commit suicide by shooting himself and drinking bleach, but none is successful. Johnson has walked away from God and doesn't want to ever hear the name God. 35 years later, Johnson has grown old and needs a mate in his mansion. He isolates himself from people and does his things alone. Elijah is a young vicious boy who dreams of having his own church one day. He is suffering from asthma and goes around with his inhaler. He is a graduate looking for a job. He arrives at Johnson's place looking to be his house help. Johnson employs him, instructing him not to mention God in his house. Elijah prepares breakfast for his boss and serves him. He doesn't like the taste and instructs him to make another for him. After Elijah's so many tries, he makes breakfast Johnson can eat. Every night, Johnson grieves for his lost family in his room crying, and Elijah comes to sit at his door and partake in it. Elijah is adding manure to the flowers outside and meets Johnson's lawyer, Mr. Coker. Both introduce themselves to each other. During Elijah's free time, when Johnson is sleeping, Elijah secretly goes to work in the closed and abandoned church. When the church is in good shape, he goes ahead into the city to share flyers inviting people for Bible study in the church. He goes to the clinic to get a new inhaler and meets Anna. She is a volunteer in the clinic and she is invited as well. She arrives late when the Bible study is over. She meets Elijah, who is nervous at first to talk to her. His breath is ceasing, and he gets his inhaler to solve the issue. He escorts her home. He fixes a date with her at the river. At the river, he is there already waiting for her. She arrives and both swim. They constantly come to the river to swim for 6 months. Both attend Bible study together and ride bicycles together. One day, while the Bible study is going on, Johnson badges inside the church, scourging Elijah from going beyond his rules and disobeying him. His excuse is that Johnson never wanted to hear anything about God. That's why he did not tell him about the opening and the activities of the church. To allow him to continue with the church, Johnson quotes Haggai 1 verse 5 and instructs him to tell him by tomorrow morning which verse it's in the Bible. He deprives himself of sleep and finds the Bible verses Haggai 1 verse 5, which he presents to Johnson in the morning. Johnson's glass is broken, and while he is having his breakfast, Elijah reads the newspaper for him. Both start getting along as they talk about the reports in the newspaper. Anna is anxious to meet Johnson. She meets him at home when Elijah is away to buy something. He returns and sees both. The three people are getting along. The love Elijah has for Anna is grown, and he wants to get married to her. Elijah plays Johnson's past life in his front, and he breaks down crying for his loss. It triggered him and he wants to watch more. Both drive to town to get a projector to be able to play more of the videos of his past life. Both stop by the roadside, sitting at the car's bonnet discussing. Johnson mentions the name of God twice, and Elijah is happy. It seems Johnson is coming out from his past life and embracing the good things that lay ahead. He stops crying at night and watches his past life with Elijah and Anna smiling and narrating about the good old days. Elijah drives him around. Johnson gifts him a tie which he wears to Anna's place to meet her parents. Anna comes from a rich family, and when her mom finds out who Elijah is, she is happy to know him. Anna's father doesn't like him and sends him out, instructing his daughter to stay away from him. Anna's father, who is a successful businessman, wants to demolish the church and build a hotel. He has paid $49 million for the church and the land already. He reached an agreement with Elijah to pay him the money in 90 days, and he will let the church be. Anna and Elijah agree to go about and see if they can raise the money. It didn't turn out well. Johnson is reluctant in saving the church, but gives him money for 1 year's salary ahead. Mr. Coker contributes too. In total, they have raised $5 million. Anna, feeling Johnson has not done enough, rudely confronts him about why he doesn't want to save the church. Elijah calls her out and apologizes to Johnson for how rude she talked to him. Outside, both get into a fight over what happened, and she runs home. She arrives home, lying on the bed, and her mom comforts her. Elijah waits for her where both normally meet, but she never comes. He then decides to wait near her house, precisely her room, where she can see him through the window. Anytime she opens the window, she closes back and cries. He is there, day and night, in the sun and rain. Finally, he returns home. When Johnson is having breakfast, Elijah narrates that the people will be protesting in front of the church against the demolishing of the church. Johnson reveals a secret to him. The church was built and owned by the British colonial power. He will call Mr. Coker to talk with the British High Commission. On the day of the church demolition, Anna is locked up in her room by her father. She calls for someone to open the door, but it goes unanswered. Anna's father is with some persons, an excavator, and the police, who are pointing guns at the protesters in front of the church. The protesters run away, leaving only Elijah between the excavator and the church. The messenger from the British High Commissioner stops him from demolishing the church, presenting a letter from the court, ordering him that it was temporarily owned by him, but now it's a national monument to be used freely by the people. Mr. Coker aided the process and the church is saved. Elijah comes home thanking Johnson. Elijah wants to stop being his house help and serve God in the church fully. Johnson is already attached to him and doesn't want to lose him. He calls him ingrate for trying to leave him after all he has done for him. He now sees Elijah as his son. Anna's mom opens Anna's door. She comes out confessing to her mom that she hates her father and will go ahead to marry Elijah. Her mom updates her that nothing happened to the church. At night, she goes to see Elijah. She wants Elijah to get her pregnant before marriage, so her father can let her marry him. Before the act, his breath starts ceasing, and she searches for his inhaler. This time around, it gets worse, and she starts panicking. She screams for help, and Johnson takes him to the hospital. Elijah is wrongly diagnosed with asthma, where he has a lung failure and needs new lungs from a donor or someone who has died within the space of 48 hours. Johnson and Mr. Coker hire specialists and doctors to help convince the family of a recently deceased person to donate their lungs to save another life. But it does not work. Johnson even gets into a fight with a family that refuses to understand the situation he is in. Johnson is with Anna, and he promises her that Elijah will not die under his watch. Elijah is an orphan. Johnson tracks down his orphanage home so he can officially adopt him. Johnson takes Mr. Coker to Lagos, where he signs his will, handing over his properties and wealth to Elijah when he is gone. We see him in church. He now knows the purpose of his life. His wealth, his mind, and his lungs are for Elijah. That is why God kept him alive when he tried to kill himself, made him a brilliant person to prepare Elijah for the things of the world. He cries as he will be joining his family soon in the afterlife. Johnson's lungs are transferred to Elijah, and he regains consciousness. When he notices that Johnson is no more, he breaks down in tears. Anna's father, knowing Elijah is now wealthy, switches to his side. Elijah weds Anna. He travels to the UK, where he did the same thing as Johnson. He dives into water and stays there for 1 hour plus and counting. That's the end. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. You can also check the description to know the name of the movie. Thank you for watching.